Create a genius mechanism. What in the world is a genius mechanism? It's essentially a way to capture and use valuable knowledge, ideas, tips, strategies, those things that you consume on a regular basis to make your life and your business better. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to create a genius mechanism, why you want to, the benefits of doing so, and then I'm going to walk you through a worksheet to help you to create your very first one and how to start putting this idea into action. And if you'd like a copy of this document, just go to the description below and click the link there. So why do you need a genius mechanism? Essentially, it's because you likely, as a learner, you take in tons of ideas, strategies, things like that. You might read a book, watch a YouTube video, or have a conversation or something like that. And that is exposing you to all kinds of great ideas. And that's awesome. That's what you want to do to make your life and your business better. But the question is, are you actually applying what you learn? Or is it a situation where after you read a book or watch a video or have a conversation, a day goes by, maybe 2 days go by, and then you forget essentially everything that you just consumed 2 days ago? And if that's the case, you're wasting your time, because it does very little good just to consume knowledge if you're not finding a way to use it. Knowledge without action is pretty much worthless. And this is what most people struggle with, is that they are exposed to all these great ideas, but they have a hard time using them in their everyday life. Why? It's because they have no system in place. They're trying to underline a book or an idea in a book, or they're trying to bookmark a YouTube video, or they're trying to take notes on a worksheet or a workshop or a seminar that they're attending. And that's not a system. That's just doing things to make yourself feel good that you're trying to do something with knowledge. That isn't really helpful. So the genius mechanism fixes that. It's a system that actually works because it's simple and you can put it into use almost immediately. So let's talk about how the whole process of creating a genius mechanism works. The first part is the setup. And the setup is you want to create a few blank documents for topics that interest you. For example, here you can see there's a document about productivity, another one about communication, another one about marketing. Now, of course, you may have a whole variety of other topics that you're interested in, but you create blank documents for each one of those topics that you have an interest in. And then what you do is you open each document and you go to the top, and at the top you put in the title of what type of information that document is going to hold. For example, you'll open up the productivity document and put at the top, productivity, that is your header. For the communication document, you go and open that up, you put communication at the top, and this is the home for all the knowledge that you take in about that particular topic. And each document becomes a genius mechanism. That's the basis of the idea. So after the setup, you're going to do something that you know how to do already, and that is the learning phase of this process. You are going to go through life like you do now, and you're going to be exposed to ideas, strategies, tips, images in the books that you read, the videos you watch, the workshops you attend, wherever you may consume that. You know how to do that. That's just capturing knowledge. But instead of doing what maybe you've done up to this point, again, which may be just underlining a book, making a note, pinning something to a Pinterest a board, or bookmarking an idea, or sharing an idea to your inbox, instead of just doing that, which is scattered and really not helpful, you're going to do the next step in the process, which is capturing ideas. So as you're exposed to an idea, you learn a new idea, what you want to do is add that idea to the appropriate genius mechanism. Now here's an example here. You have the productivity genius mechanism. This is your document, and you can see in the image, there's already 3 entries for this. That means you've captured 3 ideas about productivity up to this point. And as you can tell here, when you capture each idea, you learn an idea in a book or a video, you want to capture that idea as a short bullet point. And you want to put it right into the genius mechanism as that bullet point. Keep it simple. As you can see here, Pomodoro technique. If that's an idea that you've just learned, which is the idea of working for 25 minutes and taking a 5-minute break, then capture that idea in the productivity genius mechanism that you have. And write it as you just see it there. Something simple, just to remind you of that idea. And if you want, you can put a drawing of a tomato timer, which is regularly associated with the Pomodoro technique. Just draw that next to the idea if you're using a physical copy of a notebook. But even if you're doing something digitally, you can do that sometimes. Or let's say you're reading Brian Tracy's book on Eat the Frog, which is the idea of doing the hardest task first each day. You can say, wow, I want to have that mindset. And so you open up your productivity genius mechanism and you start a bullet point that says, eat the frog, do the hardest task first. So, something simple and short. And again, you can include a drawing of a frog if you want. If there's a helpful link that you want to reference as a tool or a resource, go ahead and add that to your genius mechanism as well. You can use images, links, examples are always a great thing to add to a specific idea, but it's important that you capture the idea in your own words when you're adding it to the genius mechanism. You don't want to copy and paste. That's the easy thing to do, but you're losing a large part of the benefits, the effectiveness of capturing the idea in your own words, which helps you to understand it and process it and internalize it better. So capture it in your own words and add some examples. Keep it short. Keep it simple. Don't complicate it. You don't want blocks of text for each idea. Something very short and simple. And that is the capturing process. Now, the next part is where you typically get a majority of the benefit, of course, and that is the reviewing process. So you have these different genius mechanisms that you have created over weeks, months. For me, I've been doing this for years. But you want to review the ideas in those genius mechanisms once a month, every few months, once a year. Just go through it, spend 5 to 10 minutes taking a genius mechanism and reviewing the ideas in there so that you can internalize them, so you can remember them and actually put them into use. You want to do this also when you have a relevant task that you're doing or a task that you're doing that's relevant to a specific genius mechanism. For example, let's say that you are about to start a marketing project of some sort. You're going to do some marketing in your business, maybe an email marketing campaign or some type of marketing campaign. That is when you want to, before you start that campaign, open up your marketing genius mechanism and review all the ideas about marketing that you've captured up to this point. So you can look at it, review it, and have those ideas fresh in your mind and go into the project, the marketing project, with a frame of mind of being at the top of your game when it comes to marketing, because you've just exposed your brain to all those great ideas about marketing right when you need it. And so that's an important reason or way to use the genius mechanism process and the reviewing process as well. Let's talk about some benefits that come from using this particular system. The first one is you have a central place to capture knowledge that matters to you. As I mentioned earlier, you really lose a lot when you are just trying to keep ideas in a notebook over here, a book that you've underlined over here, an email that you sent over there, something that you've saved as a watch later over here. That information is scattered all over the place. And while it's there, do you really remember it when you need it? Probably not. So if you have a central location for keeping ideas like the genius mechanism allows you, you're going to get more benefit from it. You're going to actually use it. And here's one of my favorite reasons for doing this system is that every time you add a new idea to a genius mechanism, let's say, for example, you learn a new productivity idea, and you open up the productivity genius mechanism and you add that idea to it, you are going to, by nature, just expose yourself to all the ideas that are on that genius mechanism already. You're going to review it right then and right there as you're adding the new idea. And because you're doing that, you are refreshing your memory about that idea. And it's strengthening your understanding of that idea so that you're internalizing it even better. This is one of the best reasons for starting the process of using and creating and using genius mechanisms. Now, let's get into our worksheet. All right, let's talk about how to implement this in your own life by looking at some next actions that you can perform. First next action is to decide whether or not you're going to use a digital process or a physical notebook of some sort to do your genius mechanisms. Decide this up front and choose one or the other. Don't scatter it with some digital, some physical, and a physical notebook. Choose one way of doing this. I do it digitally because I just prefer it that way, but you may do it in a physical notebook. That's fine. Pick one and start there. Now, once you've done that, once you know which process you're going to use, then you want to brainstorm a list of 10 topics that you want to create your first genius mechanisms about. So you might fill in productivity. Next one might be creativity. The next one might be marketing. The next one might be writing. The next one might be copywriting. But just come up with 10 topics that you want to start with for creating your genius mechanisms. The next part is to really focus this down so you can start putting it into action right away. Choose one topic that will be your first genius mechanism. Then let's say, for example, that is productivity. So you decided that that's going to be where you're going to start. Then the next part in the process is to get a timer, put 10 to 15 minutes on it, and then as that timer is counting down, open up your productivity genius mechanism and start adding as many ideas to that document that you already know about productivity. Or if it's a marketing genius mechanism, open that up and put as many ideas in there about marketing as you can. You might need more than 10 or 15 minutes, that's fine. But at least start there and have a timer so that it keeps you focused and motivated to complete this process. But just fill those documents up with as many ideas as you already know. Keep it simple and short. And that is going to be a great place to start when it comes to getting your genius mechanism process going. And remember, that is just the beginning, because as you learn new ideas, you take in new knowledge, you read that new book, watch that video, you're going to open up your genius mechanism from time to time, different ones, and add knowledge to that in short bullet points. Now, here are some tips. First tip, and I've talked about this already, but I want to emphasize it because it's so important. And that is that you want to make sure that you write each idea in your own words, not copy and pasting, not writing word for word what somebody else put, but writing in your own words so you understand the idea better. Because if you can write it out in your own words, then you understand it. And you're going to see the value of the idea itself. And again, it's easy. It's easy just to copy and paste, but don't skip this step. Write it down. And if you're curious, I talked about this a little bit already as well, how I manage the ideas that I teach. I've been doing this for decades, teaching different ideas. I have thousands of ideas. How do I manage them? Well, I use genius mechanisms to do this. And you can have as many as you want. That is totally up to you. I have dozens and dozens. And that's how I manage the knowledge that I consume. So one last thing I want to talk about or touch on is how to use this in your everyday life. We talked about how to do it using business elements such as marketing and writing and productivity, but how do you use this in everyday life? Well, you can by just creating genius mechanisms for different things like journaling. If you're into journaling, then as you're learning ideas about how to be an effective journaler, then create a genius mechanism for that. If you are learning how to eat healthy, you're learning ideas, tips, and strategies, create a genius mechanism for that. Presentations, giving a presentation, managing your money, dog training if you're into that, maybe storytelling or copywriting, video making, whatever it may be, create a genius mechanism for each one of those topics and put this process to work and put it to use. And you're going to find that when you do this, your ability to use the knowledge that you're taking in is going to ramp up many times over. And you're going to start putting into action the things that you learn. So I hope you found this useful. And again, if you'd like a copy of this document, just go to the description down below and you'll find a link to it. And I hope that you have an amazing day.